I have to jump out there anyway. Whoa.
Okay, we're 5 minutes late, so we're gonna start.
Not good.
Verify that we do have a quorum
And every have a quorum.
and it was posted.
Yes.
Any changes?
And any changes to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Note, well, I have a comment on the consent calendar, which is that the exclusion period that might be in that letter has been extended to October 21st. I also wanted to bring to your attention the flyers in front of you. You have an updated legislative matrix, have a tour, which we're going to be talking about, a picture tour, and then, which we'll talk later. And then you also have reports from Britt on a SCAG committee and Don Zerlup on the Metro Service Council. So these are all different adjuncts to your agenda.
Okay, thank you. Now, requested today that everybody go around and introduce themselves because we haven't done that for the last 2 years. So I'm Rodney Chinaka. I'm Mayor Pro Tem, City of Gardena, and the chair of the COG.
I'm Kim Fuentes. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the COG.
We haven't done this in 2 years.
At least.
That goes back
Maybe three.
About us too.
Maybe three.
Oh, maybe three.
Yeah, maybe three.
Maybe
We lost the microphone.
Cedric Hicks, councilman for the city of Carson, past chair of the COG.
Dustin Massey, City Council Member, Hermosa Beach.
David Lesser, City Council Member, Manhattan Beach.
Alex Montero, City Council for Hawthorne. Nice to you, sir.
Don Kaji, City Council, Torrance.
And B. Derringer, just in time to announce for City of Rolling Hills.
Hello, Jennifer Lamarque, alternate for Supervisor Janice Hahn.
Philip Off, Mayor Alameda.
Don Murdoch, Mayor of Palos Verdes Estates.
John Cruikshank, Mayor Rancho Palos Verdes.
I'm a guest tonight, Michael Cow, Mayor of the City of Arcadia.
Welcome.
Council Estates.
And Jackie Backrack, Executive Director.
So run back to back.
We see it on the Clean Alliance.
Marta Segovia, Senior Project Manager, Environmental Programs for the Southeast Cities Council of Governments.
Jeff Kiernan, League of California Cities for the South Bay, West Side, and Las Virgenes, Malibu cities.
Andy Siwak with Local Government Relations for Metro, South Bay Area Manager.
Holly Osborne, a Redondo resident, retired a year, and monitors the green line.
Yeah.
Really right with AT&T. Monitor the scene.
Brandy Keith, South Coast Air Quality Management District.
Thank you. And we'll go to
Oh,
I'm sorry, our staff.
David Lucier with the COG.
Natalie Champion with the COG.
And we'll go to our Zoomers.
I think you have.
Are they?
Dana Baji, Redondo Beach Council Member, on my way in.
Thank you. Bernadette.
I'll go. Bernadette Suarez, Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Lawndale and Vice Chair for the COG.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori Jacobs, Community Advocate and former COG member.
Colleen.
Colleen Farrell, Senior Project Manager Communications for the COG.
Laura.
Muted.
No, Laura.
No, she's not. She probably not be paying attention.
About Brianna.
Hi, I'm Brianna Egan, resident of Redondo Beach, lead with South Bay Forward. Thank you.
And Ray. No, Ray? Okay, so I think we've covered everybody. Correct? Okay. There's one piece of business we need to take care of. We need to add that our first chair, Bernadette Suarez, will be virtual tonight. Bernadette, is there anybody where you're at that's over 18 years of age? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to have board approval for her to be on Zoom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I move that we approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No, you have to do a roll call.
Oh, I have to do roll call. Sorry.
All right.
I'm used to doing that quick council stuff.
Right.
Sorry.
The second.
Second.
Person.
Yes.
Elizabeth, President, Gardina.
Yes.
Hawthorne,
Yes.
Formosa,
Aye.
Eagle, not present, Mondale.
Yes.
Oh, she can't vote.
Lamita,
Yes.
LA City is not here, Manhattan Beach.
Yes.
Media States.
Yes.
Rancho Palos Verdes. Yes. Redondo Beach is not here yet.
Not present.
He's right there.
You can't
Well,
vote.
you can't vote.
You can't vote unless you're here.
No, he didn't fill out the form.
Yeah.
Right.
Rolling Hills,
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates,
Yes.
Torrance,
Yes.
SD2, President, and SD4.
Yes.
We're good. Nice to have you, Bernadette. Okay, so we're gonna go to item 5. Comments from the public. So right now I have Randy Keefe. You're on.
Everybody, I do have a full agency report that is included in your agenda packet, but I did have a couple of extra announcements tonight. First off, the South Coast AQMB Residential Lawn and Garden Program has been expanded. So it is now including zero emission equipment such as battery electric leaf blowers, edgers, trimmers, and chainsaws. On September 6th, the South Coast AQMB allocated $500,000 to support this expansion, which will further reduce air pollution and provide residents with quieter, lower maintenance equipment options. The rates for equipment exchanges are based on the retail price purchase. So you would qualify for a $150 rebate for equipment priced at $250 or less, $200 rebate for equipment priced between $251 and $400, and a $250 rebate for equipment priced at more than $401. The expansion adds to the suite of the residential electric lawn and garden equipment offered through the program, contributing to cleaner air in our communities. And if you have for any questions, email lawnmower@hqmb.gov, or of course you can get in touch with me after the meeting or shoot me an email. And also you'll see I have we handed out flyers for the annual Environmental Justice Conference, which is coming up on October 24th. The theme for this year is a decade of collaboration for clean air. This is one of our really big events. We're really proud of it. And this year it'll be held at the USC's Town and Gown in Los Angeles on Thursday, October 24th at 10 a.m. This conference will include plenary sessions, speakers, and a lot of networking opportunities. You may connect with a diverse array of stakeholders, including community members, environmental justice advocates, policymakers, health experts, and business leaders. The event is free and includes a complimentary breakfast and lunch. You have a registration link on your flyer, or you can use the QR code there to register. For any other inquiries, you can contact us at ejc@hqmb.gov, or again, you could just get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Osborne, you're up.
On the agenda.
Right, we're gonna let you,
We're gonna take off because we're gonna go right into consent.
because we're going right into the consent calendar, so we're gonna let you go ahead and speak on it.
I got 6 of these. I'm cheap. So maybe you can just share, but make sure that Jennifer gets one and Mr. Mayor down there. Okay.
Please.
Okay.
You or me.
No, I want you to, but listen, I've got them up here too. All right, now I'm gonna start. Thank you for not starting the clock in advance.
I'll share one and we'll make sure that.
Holly Osborne, Redondo Beach.
Make sure.
At your August Board of Directors meeting, you had someone from Metro give a presentation on 2 405 projects. These projects add lanes to the 405 to make the freeway wider, although the presenter called them auxiliary lanes. I questioned why one of these projects was necessary and quoted from various articles, one of them the New York Times, which says, widening highways doesn't fix traffic, so why do we keep doing it? And it had a quote, but while adding lanes can ease congestion initially, it can also encourage people to drive more. If you wait years after a highway is widened, research shows traffic and the greenhouse gas emissions that come with it often return. Now, furthermore, the directors have said that they're not going to force projects through disadvantaged areas. And one of the things they're going to do is consider whether an area was disadvantaged by redlining in the past. So I found the redlining tool. And this is what it looks like for the South Bay when redlining started in 1939. This is Lawndale. That freeway widening project would go right through Lawndale, just like the freeway does. And so I'll flip it over and show you. There it is. Okay. So at the last board meeting, you guys said you were going to give it to the Transportation Committee. And one of the Transportation Committee said, you know, I'm not affected by this. We really should consider the cities that are involved on what they think. So thank you for the person who said that. Now, I want to expand this area right here. You guys don't have a copy of this one, but it's just expanded. There's actually 7 pieces of this widening right through here. And why do we have 7 pieces? Each one is less than 1 mile. If you have them less than 1 mile, there's the clock. Oh, then you don't have to do an environmental report. Isn't that sneaky? Isn't that sneaky? I am against this. And Lawndale has got the most to say, so I hope you listen. And oh my God, I've got half a minute. It's really hard. Thank you for coming to get any drawings or any information about this project. Okay, I don't think you've ever just really discussed it except for the time last time. Okay, so now I'm done. No clap. I've got 15 seconds left.
Thank you.
And, you know, if you want, I can email you that stuff, and I'm cheap and I didn't make a whole bunch of colored copies.
Okay, thank you, David.
Okay, so we had 2 written public comments. Brianna, one of them was yours. Did you want to make your public comments?
Sure, I'm happy to provide that live. Yeah, thank you. Again, my name is Brianna Egan. I'm a resident of Redondo Beach. I'm also one of the leads with South Bay Forward, which is an advocacy organization focused on moving the South Bay region forward on housing, transit, and active mobility. I am also calling in to speak on the same project as Ms. Osborne. I oppose alternative 2 for the 405 auxiliary lane improvements project, which would widen the 405 for many of the same reasons that Dr. Osborne had shared. The 405 has been widened before in many different small sections across the South Bay and across the region. But as we know from the law of induced demand and the impacts of freeway widening projects in LA and around the country, widening freeways does not actually solve traffic. And so what minimal improvements there are made to traffic are usually offset within a year's time by more cars that are on the road, as well as additional pollution, noise, and traffic to the surrounding communities. So just on net, it is not environmentally just to continue to bring these projects forward. I believe the projected cost of $130 million for this project could be much better spent on more effective projects that will reduce traffic congestion, such as studying opportunities for bus rapid transit in the South Bay region, exploring bus service, such as Metro bus service on the 405 itself for commuters in the region, and also really funding the active transportation projects that are needed along the Dominguez Channel bike path, connecting to the Dominguez Channel itself, and implementing the comprehensive bike master plans that we have from LA County, LA Metro, and the South Bay Bicycle Master Plan, which has just released an update. And I encourage you all to check that out. In summary, we can't keep doing the same thing by widening freeways and expecting different results. So I really want to implore you all not to support alternative 2 for this project. Finally, I do want to share that next week is Clean Air Day on October 2nd. I want to encourage you all to utilize public transit next week. Some of the agencies will be providing free transit service. And I want to invite you to our South Bay Transit Summit, which we're hosting in collaboration with Move LA and Torrance Transit. You can find information on that on Move LA's website. It'll be held October 5th at the Torrance Transit Center from 1 to 4 p.m. So please engage with us and transportation advocates in the region. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
We have one more written public comment from Alan. Alan is also commenting on the 405 item. He says, hello, my name is Alan. I'm a resident of LA that frequents the 405. I'm against freeway widening of any kind. Yes, we all hate traffic and would love to solve it. We can debate what is the best mode for that, transit lines, buses, biking, etc. But one thing is for sure, adding more lanes will not solve traffic. It is crazy to even think of widening freeways in 2024 in light of induced demand. Not only are you widening lanes, you are using a loophole that exempts widening by breaking up projects into chunks. This is not cool, and we, the public, see through your deception. Please do not support this project as it is a waste of time, money, and will solve nothing. And then he shares a link to destructionfornada.com. Solving traffic is not adding more lanes. If you want a domestic example, look at the 405 widening in Sepulveda Pass. I still see traffic there. I hope you consider this comment.
Okay,
I believe that is all the public.
Okay, gonna move on to our consent calendar.
I'd like to ask that the, this is Mayor Pro Tempore and Suarez City of Lawndale, that D is removed for a separate vote. Similar to what the speakers have said, and sorry, I'm not feeling the best, so I'm trying to get this as I can, but I feel the same way. It has a lot of impacts, especially to the city of Lawndale. And I'm just concerned about future projects, what that's going to do if there is increased traffic to our roads, the impacts that it's going to have environmentally on our constituents. And so for that reason, I am going to oppose the support letter.
Okay, so I need to pull this item.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to pull from the consent calendar, item D, David. Anything else needs to be pulled? So let's take a vote. Everything else except for music.
The motion to approve consent agenda pulling item D.
Second.
Chair?
Yes.
I need to abstain from the meeting minutes. So I don't know how you want to.
That's fine.
The first item on consent.
It has to call a roll call.
Yes, call right. You just abstain when you.
Carson?
Yes.
El Segundo here. Gardena?
Yes.
Aquaman?
Aye.
Turbo Beach?
Aye.
Inglewood?
Aye.
Lawndale?
Sorry, this is for the rest of the consent.
This is for the rest of it.
Okay.
Oh, aye. This is important. I'm sorry.
Bernadette, that was an aye.
Okay, all right. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sorry, my internet's going in and out.
Lamita?
Aye.
President Manhattan Beach?
Aye.
Houseford Estates?
Abstain on A, aye for the rest.
RPD?
Yes.
From down the beach?
Yeah, aye.
Rolling Hills?
Abstain on A and aye for the rest.
Rolling Hills Estates?
Yes.
Torrance?
Yes.
SD2?
I would like.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes.
Okay. So now item D is up for discussion.
I'd like to just mention this came from the Transportation Committee. Looked at the this widening project has been on our list for many, many years. There's a tremendous amount of freight movement and a safety project. If you look at the accidents in this area are higher. And so we are not adding lanes. I mean, it's a semantic thing. If you talk about adding a more length to an on-ramp, they're calling it a widening. We're calling it an auxiliary lane because it's not a full lane. You can't use it to get all the way down the freeway. It's just to safely get in and get out of the freeway. And so I think that it's not fair to call it a lane widening when it's a safety project.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Zane.
I agree with the speakers and Councilmember Suarez. I've driven the auxiliary lane on the 405 south of Inglewood, and yes, it's just an auxiliary lane, but it kind of lasts from an entire on-ramp to an off-ramp, and it's kind of like an expansion of the freeway. I'm also concerned that Metro hasn't head-on addressed whether this would impact any alternative to run the Metro C line down Hawthorne Boulevard, and I'm concerned about its impact on Lawndale, which has already been marginalized. Actually, just today, I went to a house in Lawndale to meet a resident, and he lives right on the right of way, but he has no way to get on the Metro if it's built on the right of way. So this is just Metro overlooking this community again. So I'd make a motion to oppose this.
I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah, quick question. Mr. Chair, has this, we talked about having it go to the Transportation Committee and then input from the respective cities. So we've heard from, Lawndale. Has this gone to the respective cities that are impacted and
Good answer.
I know that Metro's been working with staff. I don't know if they've taken it to council for a facility.
Right, and it was discussed at, I think, the Infrastructure Working Group and the Transportation Committee.
Okay, I just was kind of curious.
Madam Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
In relation to that question, it has not gone to the city as a whole. I did get information regarding the 405 exchange that's going to actually be on the curve that actually is in my district and District 3 in the city of Carson. And my residents are concerned because it is an issue by doing the on-ramp and off-ramp for that location. There's been a high concentration of car accidents because it is a very short window. If you drive that location and you're getting on the on-ramp, if you're not, I say, a seasoned driver and know how to maneuver yourself and know how to hit that gas pedal at the right time, you will get rear-ended or you'll get sideswiped at some point in time. But my residents did not have enough time to be heard. So there is going to be another scoping meeting on October the 16th at the request of not only myself, but the mayor, because we did go to that scoping meeting that was given to us at the last minute. And we just want to make sure that our residents are very well informed of what is going on, because right now they don't know what's happening. So we were able to get at least 6 people to show up to this meeting. There was more Metro staff members there than it was for the residents. So that's why it's going to be another meeting on the 16th. We're mobilizing our community. My motion will be to table this until after my residents go through the process, because we're going to be affected by this very greatly.
Good. Well, you have to take the initial motion off.
I think the motion to table can supersede that, can't it?
You have to do
Is that a substitute motion?
Substitute motion. So he would like to table that until
till the cities actually have the opportunity to go through the process.
Is that for both letters, Cedric?
Yes.
I would second that motion.
Okay, can I just make a clarification? I would support the motion to table because there's a lot of confusion around this table, because your project is different than the project that's the Lawndale project. So why don't we just
separate them out?
We can table it all. There's enough confusion here that I guess I feel like maybe we need more information.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I thought there was some time sensitivity to this, which is why Metro brought it to us at this point, because I think they're seeking federal funding.
Right, but we had a meeting today and it's not clear that they're going to seek the funding.
The only time sensitivity is a comment letter on the Carson.
Oh, yeah, the Carson one was time sensitive, but the scoping now, oh, yeah, the scoping, if you can let the Transportation Committee decide. October 21st is the end of the scoping period. So if we don't take action now, we won't be able to take action at our board meeting. It'll be too late in October. So that one is more urgent than the Lawndale one.
So is that the reason behind them not doing well? the scoping meeting that we had last week has now been extended to the October 16th date.
Right, and then they extended the scoping period to the 21st.
Okay.
But the 21st is before our meeting, which is the 24th. So we could take action at the Transportation Committee, if that's okay with everybody. We can rehear this, or we just don't take any action at all.
I'm fine with the transportation meeting.
Yeah, I think it would be, I would think it'd be fair to Carson if the Transportation Committee.
Okay, was authorized to take a position.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be best.
I mean, if you want to do that, you have to put that in your motion, I think.
Yeah.
That is my motion.
You got that, David?
Okay, so that,
Go ahead.
To push that October 21st date over, will they budge at all or no?
That's already been extended to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Does that answer me no?
And now it's saying no, October 21st. Has to be.
So it's already been extended.
And publicized, so 21st is.
That's the drop dead date.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, the motion is to table the discussion of letters of support for the project other than the Carson segment, and for the Carson segment to authorize the Transportation Committee at its next meeting to decide for the COG whether or not a letter of support goes out.
Right, would you like the Transportation Committee to also reconsider this other letter as well?
That wasn't part of the motion.
Okay, okay.
That was separate.
okay, so I have a motion by Carson. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Oh,
Englewood.
that's fine. I mean, it's changed. If you want to second it, that's fine.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, give it back to her. I'll vote against it now. I'm kidding you.
By B. Okay, Carson?
Yes.
El Segundo is not president. Cardina?
Yes.
Hawthorne?
Yes.
Hermosa?
Aye.
Inglewood?
Yes, absolutely.
Lawndale?
Sorry, I can't, my internet's just going in and out and there's a lot of things around me to confirm all the letters are being tabled.
So both letters are being tabled. The Carson letter is being sent to the Transportation Committee for potential action at the Transportation Committee in October.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Lamita?
Yes.
LA City's not president. Manhattan Beach?
Yes.
Palos Verdes Estates?
Aye.
Rancho Palos Verdes?
Yes.
Redondo?
Yes.
Rolling Hills?
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates?
Yes.
Torrance?
Yes.
SD2?
Oh, yes.
And SD4?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have two speakers tonight, so we're going to move on to our presentations. The first presentation will be introduced.
Marco.
You want the microphone?
Oh.
Cedric sounds so good on it.
He did too, didn't he? Like karaoke.
Like politicians.
Yeah, turn it on.
Oh, it works. It works.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker this evening because it, among other things, it's an opportunity to highlight the work of Cal Cities here in Los Angeles through our Los Angeles division. And so I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Michael Cow, Mayor of Arcadia, as our newly installed president of the division, which happened in August. And he was elected in 2022, and he's already a regional president. So I'm very excited about sharing his bio, which is, I think, very impressive. He spent 10 years as an active duty major in the United States Air Force, and he was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. And Dr. Cow was the team leader of the critical airlift team, which was instrumental in treating and saving lives of countless servicemen and women. Upon returning to civilian life, he joined the faculty of, as the faculty assistant professor of medicine
at the Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California. And he has subsequently moved into private practice as a cardiologist, yes. In California, he has, at the state level, done some equally interesting things. He was appointed as a public member on the State Bar of California Committee of Bar Examiners by the Speaker of the Assembly. And for 2023 to 24, the Supreme Court of California appointed Dr. Cow as chairman of the Committee of Bar Examiners. In terms of our LA County, he was appointed as the commissioner on the HIV Commission by the Los Angeles County Supervisor. And in Arcadia, he was appointed to the Senior Citizens Commission, where he served as the chairman, and also volunteers as a board director on the Arcadia Police Foundation. So you can see he's got a very varied background. And so each of the new presidents, when they come in, or at least more recently, I know our previous president, B. Derringer from our COG, had a set of strike teams to focus on important issues. And Dr. Cow has reached out to leaders at all levels, state, local, county, and has set up meetings for those of us who are on the board of directors for the division, meet with them. And that has been really a very positive experience because it's given us an opportunity to speak to all 5 of the supervisors and assemblymen and hopefully the speaker one of these days and so forth. So I am very pleased to be serving with him as the new vice president and look forward to working with him, and welcome Dr. Mayor Cow.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so humbled actually to be here because, first of all, my leader, our immediate past president, D. Derringer, is to my right. And then our incredible vice president, Brett Haupt, is here as well. And then actually I see so many folks, so many familiar faces because I serve with so many others on Clean Power Alliance together. So actually, I didn't realize I feel like I'm coming home actually. So I know that everyone here is an elected leader, and I just wanted to come as the League of California Cities just to be able to remind everyone what the league does. Jeff does a great job here for our league and also for the COG. So I just want to remind everyone that the League of California Cities, it has 477 members throughout the state of California. We serve cities as small as 200 people in Amador City and cities as large as the city of LA, which is 3.8 million. And the League of Cities actually has 58 board members. And the organization is comprised of city officials and city staff. So we have 10 municipal departments, 7 policy committees, 16 regional divisions. LA division is one of those 16 regional divisions, and 5 diversity caucuses. And then the great thing about Cal Cities is that there's 75 Cal Cities partners from the private sector that help support the work of the organization itself. And then this organization has 70 staff members throughout all the regions, and as well as the headquarters, which is in Sacramento as well too. So now the LA division, and the reason why I'm here is that we're actually the largest division in the state. The LA division has 85 member cities, and in those 85 member cities, there's a board of directors that Britt and B are on as well. And it's a 13-member board where we have regional directors from every COG subregion here in the county of LA. And then for the South Bay COG, Barry White from Lomita is the representative for the South Bay COG on the board of directors for the league in the LA division. And then just a reminder, everyone knows that LA County is 11 million people, 4,500 square miles. There's 550 elected officials throughout the county. But what does the LA division do? So first of all, once a year we meet, we set our annual goals in December. And so the 2024 division strategic priorities are number one, and this was discussed among all the board of directors, is to support legislation, policies, funding, and other resources that improve public safety and address law enforcement challenges. That's our first priority. The second is to support adequate state funding and other resources to increase the required supply of affordable housing and its required infrastructure. The third is we want to advocate for direct and equitable ongoing funding to address homelessness. And then lastly, our mission is to support legislation and policies that protect and preserve local decision-making authority. That's us, each one of our cities. So that we have authority over land use, housing, and matters that are traditionally reserved for cities as well. We oppose unfunded mandates, and we want to seek funding for those prior unfunded mandates as well. Now, the board itself, what do? So what we do is we advocate. That's the mission of the organization. We advocate from a legislative standpoint, from a ballot measure standpoint, as well as a legal advocacy standpoint as well. Excuse me for 1 second. My papers are one off. So excuse me 1 minute. All right. So what do we do from a legislative advocacy standpoint? Well, first of all, our goal is to protect the common interests of all cities statewide. We want to protect local decision-making authority, and we want to make sure that we have less state interference. So we have policy committees, and the reason I share this with you is that we have policy committees that each city staff, city mayors, council members can help guide legislation from a Cal City standpoint. Ballot measure-wise is that the first campaign of Cal City started 20 years ago with Prop 1A. And then essentially we've worked on local land use, rent control, and transportation funding. And Cal Cities has been strong with these campaigns. From a legal advocacy standpoint, Cal Cities represents all California cities in federal and state courts. We file friends of court briefs and letters in the appellate courts, and also working with state attorney general for cases that affect local authority as well. From an legal advocacy committee standpoint, it's comprised of municipal attorneys that inform Cal City's decision-making on which cases and attorney general opinions that merit statewide support. What I found incredibly useful is that we have division meetings where we can get trained, we can meet the experts from the different various industries, but also on a larger scope, we can meet each other and we can be able to share ideas and share best practices as well. And I found that incredibly useful. And then lastly, the division itself in Cal Cities has weekly newsletters to deliver information, monthly digital magazines that dive into bigger policy issues, and discussion groups that we can share information as well too. So the different policies that we work on, for instance, the state itself, from a state level, we've worked on and have positions on 23 state bills, 2 federal bills. And then we're especially active on bills that are related to obviously public safety with our priorities, housing and land use. And then we were also engaged on opposing AT&T from withdrawing as a carrier of last resort as well. So when you look at the different policies that the division advocated on, we've been successful. Now, I want to talk about some current ballot measures that are coming out for 2024 for this November. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because how it works is that the division is the LA division, but on the state side, we have the Cal Cities Board of Directors, and Britt serves on that as the state board of director. And what they did is they met in July, and what they did is that they voted to support 3 propositions, statewide propositions that I wanted to share with everyone. Proposition 4, and what is Proposition 4? It's a $10 billion climate bond that would channel funding to communities for various programs mitigating the impacts of climate change. It was first proposed last year. Cal Cities pushed for increased funding to the cities itself. The bond would reflect funding for stormwater capture and reuse, local water conservation programs, state and local wildfire prevention, sea level rise mitigation and adaptation funding, and extreme heat mitigation. So that's from a Proposition 4 standpoint. Proposition 5 affects all cities. And what Proposition 5 is that it's aimed at the state's housing supply. And it would lower the voter threshold to 55% for bonds used for affordable housing, permanent supportive housing, and public infrastructure. So this is the same bar for the bonds that's used for construction, rehabilitation, and replacement of schools. The third measure that Cal Cities statewide supports is Proposition 36, and that's the district attorney's sponsored ballot measure that would create a deterrent for repeat retail theft offenders and redirect some towards treatment rather than incarceration. So those are the statewide measures that the Cal Cities Board supports for the November ballot measure. And then what I mean, everyone here at the table here is obviously engaged as COG members. So, but I do want to let everyone know, if you can pass it on to your fellow council members as well, is that, you know, to get engaged, if you want to send letters on important measures of legislation, attending division and statewide in-person conferences and seminars, attending the virtual roundtables that we have, and then lastly, just to be able to share ideas of best practices and what you found was useful in your cities as well too. Now, the way that you can stay connected is basically there's the Cal Cities website, calcities.org, lacities.org, and then there's, like I said, social media as well as monthly newsletters. I did want to put a plug in, is that coming up very soon, and I'm hoping to see quite a few of everyone here, is that we have our annual conference that's coming up in October. The annual conference basically alternates between Sacramento and Long Beach. This year it's in Long Beach, so it's actually very convenient for all of us. The conference itself is October 16th through the 18th here in Long Beach. And we're gonna have a LA division lunch on October 16th at 11:30 a.m. if people have time to be able to make it. It's a great venue for everyone to share ideas, to be able to hear what the rest of the state is doing, and to see what works or what may or may not be applicable to each of our own individual cities. And then lastly, every year we have our All Cities Holiday Reception. And if you have time, it'll be on December 11th at 6 p.m. in downtown LA as well too. So our staff is Jeff Kiernan right here, who is our Regional Public Affairs Manager, as well as Jennifer Kwan as well too. So I just wanted to share what Cal Cities does and to be able to see, you know, how we can support each and every one of you in your cities as well. And we love to be able to advocate as well as share ideas and be able to work together. Because as we all know, especially here in ACOG, we know that each of our local cities, there's only so much we can do individually. And we can do a lot more together. So thank you for everyone's time this evening. Thank
you. Thank you, Dr. Cal. Okay, our next speaker will be introduced. Ron, since you.
Yeah.
Esteemed board members, I have the pleasure to introduce today Miguel A. Santana to have a discussion with you on Measure A. Get notes together. Okay. Miguel Santana has more than 3 decades of experience in government, nonprofit, private, and public community sectors. Is renowned as an advocate for systems change and making Southern California a more equitable place for all of its residents, especially those who have been historically marginalized. Miguel was appointed in August of 2023 as president and CEO of California Community Foundation. With over $2.3 billion in assets, it's one of the Southern California's largest and most active philanthropic organizations, which has served Angelenos for more than a century. Prior to CCF, Miguel has led the Weingart Foundation and was the chief administrative officer for the city of Los Angeles. Lastly, Miguel is currently serving on the board of La CASA, the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency, which is a component of Measure A. Please help me welcome Miguel.
Good evening.
Evening.
I appreciate the invitation. It's good to be here with all of you. I actually live on the other side of Crenshaw. If you go on the 10, right at the intersection of Crenshaw and Adams, that's my home. So I was actually debating whether I should drive up Crenshaw. Probably take an hour and a half to get home. I've always wanted to do that drive. So as you heard, I'm here to talk about Measure A. I'm here representing 400,000 LA County voters who signed a petition to place Measure A before the rest of LA County voters. It's a ballot measure that we'll see in November. And there's an echo.
It's Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. You good?
Yeah.
Okay. It's before the voters. It's a sales tax. It repeals Measure H that was voted by LA County voters close to 10 years ago and replaces it with Measure A, which is informed by the frustrations and the learnings of past interventions to respond to the homeless crisis. I am one of the authors of this initiative. If you look at the bottom, my name is one of 5 residents who have placed it before the voters. And as you've heard, I've been involved in this issue for many years. In fact, most of my career working in the city of Los Angeles as chief administrative officer, where I recommended Proposition H, the $1.2 billion housing measure. And then also in the county of Los Angeles for 16 years, where when I left the county, I was deputy CEO for all social services, including homelessness. And I think I start there by saying that this measure is really about responding to the concerns that residents and cities have surfaced on the implementation of the other interventions that we laid out. And I'll talk about what those are. When you look at this initiative, one of the most important parts of it is that it actually requires the setting of goals. Not common in government where you would actually be required to set 5-year goals, and it specifies the goals that we're hoping to achieve. One is to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness in LA County. 2 is to increase the production of affordable housing in LA County. 3 is the expansion of actual services, particularly mental health and addiction services. So the question is, who is required to set those goals? And unlike other measures, the people around the table to set those goals are, in fact, the county and the cities. There is the executive table that has been established by the Board of Supervisors that includes representation from throughout the county. So your colleagues from throughout the county serve on it. And that table is intended to establish goals. Now, it's formed today, but like anything else, when an elected body makes a decision, it could be removed in the future by, in this case, 3 votes. Measure A codifies that table. So in other words, it can't be taken away. It requires that leadership table, that executive table rather, be the place that informs how these funds are distributed and what are the goals that are going to be achieved. So from the very beginning, it requires a county-wide perspective, and it has to be informed by what every jurisdiction throughout the county anticipates and their piece in that process in partnership with the county. Right now, Measure H, which is currently in place, is only decided by the Board of Supervisors. And so there is an expectation, a requirement that cities be part of the formation of the goals and the distribution of those dollars. And guiding those decisions are goals that will be established by the table. And so those goals are going to be evaluated on a regular basis and published publicly. And there's an expectation, in fact, a mandate in the ballot measure, that those programs that are not effective based on that evaluation be recommended to be that funding be shifted to those programs that are working. There's very few things, in fact, I don't think there's anything in government that particularly in a funding stream that requires that. The second thing it does that is first of its kind, it responds to both the issue of housing, requiring the production of housing, which we know is what's needed, what's the most critical piece in helping people stay housed. It's housing supply to control costs of housing overall. But it also provides funding for services. And so the services are specifically intended for those who are the most chronic, those who are currently unhoused, and those who will be unhoused. And we know that they need mental health services, addiction services, and other services to not only help them go from the street into interim housing, and the expectation is to permanent housing, but those services allow them to stay in those units. And so you can't just have one side of the table responded to just on the service side, which is what Measure H currently does. You need to have the housing along with it. And unlike Measure Triple H that was that's in the city of Los Angeles, that measure required that the housing be largely for those who are currently unhoused, who are the most chronic individuals, meaning permanent supportive housing. Now, we all know that permanent supportive housing is the solution for someone who is chronically unhoused, but we need all kinds of affordable housing to ensure that people don't end up unhoused in the first place. And this measure, in fact, allows for that. It encourages that there be funding for all levels of affordability, not just for those who are currently unhoused. So as a preventive measure. Now, how does that get decided? We know that the leadership table, the executive table that I mentioned that includes the supervisors and the city's district will establish goals that will inform the distribution of the service dollars. On the bricks and mortar side, there's the CASA. And as you heard, I'm currently vice chair of La Casa. I'm one of 5 appointees that Mayor Bass has made. And La Casa is a JPA that was formed by the state of California that includes both the Board of Supervisors, all 5 of them sit on the board, as well as representation from cities from throughout the county. It is essentially the closest thing to Metro, if you want to sort of think of an example. But the specific purpose of La Casa is on the building of affordable housing. Now, La Casa, unlike Metro, does not have land use authority, so it can't usurp your authority as cities. But it does create a financing arm around so that you have a partner as cities to access dollars to build the affordable housing in your own communities. And so how those dollars are distributed, how they're prioritized, what is the structure, La Casa gets to decide that. And again, you get a seat at the table through La Casa. So significant difference from how we've seen Measure H applied and Measure Triple H. The other thing that we heard from many cities is that, particularly from Measure H, that the funding was committed to the county and the county decided how to distribute it. And cities often felt they didn't get a share of it. This initiative actually sets aside 15% of the services dollars as a local return program. So cities and COGs from throughout the county will anticipate receiving money directly. And at the same time, they'll sit on the table for how the rest of those service dollars are distributed. So you'll receive dollars that you currently don't receive, and you'll have a seat at the table for the larger pot. Now, one of the questions that's been asked is there a maintenance and effort requirement? Meaning, are you required to maintain your current level of spending on homeless related activities to be able to draw down Measure A dollars? And the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is this is where being a budget nerd from the city of Los Angeles comes in handy, is that many cities' intervention services dollars that they're using for the homeless response in their own communities are one-time dollars. They're dollars that came from relief funds of the federal government, or they're taking away from dollars for other critical services. So we didn't want to create a situation where you were robbing Peter to pay Paul. We think every city needs to decide on their own what's the best distribution of dollars for their own communities. So maintenance of effort is not required. Now, I want to also state, you know, I've been talking to a variety of different clusters of the way cities are organized. Recent was in Oceanside and had an opportunity to meet with Contract Cities. I'm proud to report that Contract Cities has endorsed this initiative as being something that is critical to the response to homelessness. And I'll also state that in terms of what's at stake, you know, whether you agree with the distribution of Measure H dollars or not, there are currently 30,000 people living in the county of Los Angeles who are receiving support with Measure H dollars. And so Measure H dollars, Measure H will expire. And so it is anticipated that should this measure not be extended, we would expect an actual increase in homelessness. People who are currently housed, being serviced through these dollars through Measure H will now not have a funding stream. So that is a significant increase at a time we're finally starting to see a leveling off of the number of people experiencing homelessness countywide and better coordination with the cities and the county around this issue. So the last thing I'll say, and certainly here to answer any questions, is that whether or not you decide to endorse this measure is your decision clearly. But more importantly, what I hope that what you leave with is a real intention to make sure that your point of view is considered in these various tables that currently exist. So I go to La Casa every month, and we get presentations from different entities that have a point of view around these issues. I encourage you to think about what is it that you need as in your community to have this be responsive to your needs, maybe even coordinate with some of the other COGs throughout the county and present your perspective, because we're at the very beginning of establishing guidelines, establishing structures and processes. And, you know, being in government for as long as I have, as many of you have, it's very rare that you get to be at the inception of a structure like this. And so I encourage you to make sure that your point of view is expressed and to work with your representatives to advance those issues. Because ultimately it has to be done in a collaborative way and it has to be done regionally. If there's one thing we've learned, is that homelessness is not an issue that gets solved only in one community. It impacts the entire region, and moving people around from one side of the street to the other is ultimately not the solution we want to see. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. But yes.
Yes, hi.
I see you.
Good to see you, Miguel. As you know, we were looking at it when I was president. There was the drafts, and thank you for sharing those with us. But it became clear in looking at some of the drafts. And first of all, I mean, I know you worked hard on this and you would like to see it pass. But I mean, Measure H, the current Measure H doesn't expire until 2027. So it's not like if this doesn't get passed, it's like all these people are thrown out on the street immediately. But the distribution of funds has always been something we've heard from cities that's concerning. And with the whole pot of money, it's only 60% of the money that comes out for homelessness services. But the cities only get 15% of the 60% of those funds. And the point in time count, there was a concern about that because, and I'm not sure, but my understanding of the point in time was a point in time at which in Los Angeles, because of whatever was going on there, it was the majority of the homeless people experiencing homelessness were in the city of LA. And there were tents everywhere. So it was kind of a situation where they were not having them leave. And so that would be something would favor heavily the city of LA vis-a-vis, the smaller cities. And during the iterations, they were asking, as I recall, 60% of the 15%. And Long Beach was asking for 30%. And this other rest of us cities would have to basically get what's left. So my concern is that, and they have 2 seats, City of LA, on that executive committee, and the Board of Supervisors only gets recommendations from the executive committee. They can decide to not follow those recommendations. So I think with cities I'm hearing is how do we get comforted that with all of these, and there are more additional checks and balances that Measure H had, I agree with you, but how do we feel like we're gonna not get the short end of the stick when everything gets panned out?
It's a very good question. So yes, you described the process well, and having been on the other side of helping draft this. So there were, during the drafting process, there were considerations about carve-outs. That certain cities should get an automatic off the top, a guaranteed funding streams, and the majority of the cities not. I was of the point of view is that the data should determine how the funding gets distributed. There shouldn't be a carve out, and frankly, that was the point of view of Mayor Bass. Mayor Bass argued that the city of LA shouldn't get a carve out, that it should be informed by data. Now, the point in time count is one point of reference that the executive committee should use to determine how the distribution actually happens. It doesn't establish that it's the only point of reference. It says it should use data like the point in time count. And so we intentionally wrote it that way to give the executive committee flexibility, because there are other considerations that need to be considered. Considerations around transit corridors, considerations for cities that may have venues or beaches that draw people from around the county or from around the state to their locales. Those that have transit stops that may bring people into their own communities. So it was designed in a way to use data and the deliberation of the executive committee to make those decisions as opposed to limited only to one data point. And when you consider that this is an ongoing revenue stream, meaning that it doesn't have an expiration date by design. What that means is that when you create a revenue stream that's ongoing, what makes sense in 2024 may not make sense in 2054. And so many government programs and revenue streams are designed for the moment, but then the facts change over time. So this was created knowing that it had to be nimble and be flexible and be informed by a group of people who will be sitting around the table negotiating the various issues within their own community, while at the same time looking at this as a regional problem. And so the reason why the executive committee is the advisor to the board is because state law requires that, given the funding stream that it is. Now, having worked at the county for 16 years, most of the years on the 8th floor, we're a member of the Board of Supervisors. It is, and as I see my former colleague there, who was down the hall from me, it is hard for me to imagine that an advisory board made up of the cities, the constituencies of the board, having gone through a deliberative process using data and goals that they're required. The goals are required in the initiative to be set by this table, that they would dismiss that altogether and do something dramatically different. I think so it was structured to give the power and the thinking and the analysis and the weight to the executive committee, which you have representation on. On La Casa, it's very clear. La Casa, because it is a joint powers authority, it's actually another form of government like Metro. Those dollars, 40% of the total revenue go automatically to La Casa. The board can't change that. That is codified in the initiative. La Casa manages and directs 100% of how those dollars are funded because it's another form of government. So it could receive those dollars in that way. And it could decide it could bond against that revenue stream. So if it was looking to do a more significant response today, given the huge need. So the ongoing revenue stream is expected to be between $400 and $500 million a year. Imagine how impactful that would be if we actually bonded against that so we could have a larger intervention now, knowing the severity of the problem. La Casa has bonding authority to be able to do that. And so there's an opportunity here to really make some transformative change into the way we're responding to this crisis. Not just by building more housing throughout the county, but as importantly, by establishing a regional strategy with goals that are informed by data and by the people around the county whose job it is to respond. And there's nothing like that today, and an ongoing revenue stream that will ensure that whatever is planned today continues to be invested into the future.
Thank you. Okay, because we are running late, I'm going to take one question from Lori, and that'll be the last one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Miguel, for your presentation. I appreciate very much the work that's been put into this. Adding the housing component is critical, and it was much needed in Measure H. I do have concerns about this no sunset date, and I've heard it be a sticking point with other people too. So I'm just throwing out that concern. But to the board there, I say, I believe that homelessness has no borders, that this is a humanitarian issue, and we should be looking at the whole. And I realize the cities need to watch out for each city, but this is an issue for all of us. And I hope that they will consider this. It is absolutely needed to continue the work and the momentum that has been done. So I don't really have so much a comment or a question as a comment, but I do bring up that the no sunset date, I've heard from several advocates in my field that that's a concern. Thank you for the work you've put into this.
I appreciate that. And I'll specifically respond to that because we spend a lot of time thinking about the issue of the sunset. My belief is, given the various roles that I've had, is a big reason why we're in the situation we're in today. At the crisis level, both on the street homelessness that we see, that we'll see on our way home tonight, as well as the lack of affordable housing that's impacting our economy, impacting where our children will live, impacting every aspect of our life, is that we have treated the issue of affordable housing and homelessness as a temporary problem. So we identify interim solutions that have a beginning, middle, and end, with the idea that through that interim solution, we will solve the problem. This is not a temporary problem. It hasn't been, ever. And our thinking that by doing something with the sunset, somehow magically it's not going to be needed into the future. So when you put a sunset on something, you don't plan for the long term. You plan what the sunset is and move backwards. And so imagine if we treated public safety that way, where we thought that, well, there was a huge spike in crime in the 90s. And so we need to come up with a one-time beginning, middle, and end source of revenue for public safety, when in fact, public safety is an ongoing issue, one way or the other. It needs an ongoing revenue stream. And so for this case, on the issue of affordable housing and homelessness, we felt directly in response to our learnings of prior interventions, that in order to end homelessness for the long term, for future generations, there needs to be an ongoing revenue stream that's going to ensure that. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to 8A.
Okay, the 8A is on page 99. And it's November ballot measures that we discussed with the steering committee, and they're bringing them to you. We identified only certain ballot measures that we think are something that cities might want to take an interest in, or the COG. So you'll see some that we're not talking about. The ones in bold on page 99 are propositions 4, 5, 33, and 36, as far as the statewide propositions. And then A and G. Oh, A and G. And also E is there, and I know there's been some interest in E. The only thing the steering committee did is they recommended an oppose on measure G. They didn't do any other recommendations. So what the issue is tonight for you all is to deliberate on whether you want to take any actions, whether you want to take actions on some and not others, and what actions you would take. You can try to answer any questions. Same.
Thank you.
I favor taking a position in favor of Prop 5. And self-serving for Redondo Beach because we have a ballot. A bond on the ballot. That's called full disclosure.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a basic question, which is?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I understand that some of our governance organizations will take positions because they intend to promote them to the electorate. Does the COG plan to somehow communicate what the COG believes with respect to these ballot measures?
Well, we're a governmental agency, so we can't actually go out and spend money on this. What we would do, what we've done in the past, we obviously send it out to all of our cities, what the position is. We would probably do a press release, and we would contact the organizations, the support. If we're supporting, we would contact those and say, you can list our name. If they're opposing, you would contact those. That's as far as we would go. So we don't want to spend any money on this, but we would go that far.
Thank you.
I'll get the conversation now.
Go ahead.
I know on my council, I'm extremely conservative on when our city takes a formal position on measures, mainly because the voters have an opportunity to express their vote And I'm not sure how many are necessarily looking at our council in our wise judgment to inform their decision. I think my criteria might be a little bit more conservative. It might well be echoing what I heard from Redondo Beach Councilmember Robaji with regard to something that we see as a pattern affecting all of our cities. In this case, it has to do with the threshold for raising funds. And that might be my predisposition here, although I'm receptive to hear other positions.
Other comments? Again?
If I may, to expand on that, besides obviously us having a bond, what I see on the macro level is the state taking away our power and telling us what we need to do at every juncture, but not really providing us with support. What I see Proposition 5 doing is lowering the threshold for us to get that support when our residents do support us to achieve major change in our cities and achieve the goals that we have for infrastructure improvements and the like.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I mean, I think we should have some conversation because what happens with the state, and I'm not expressing a position on Prop 5 specifically, but what happens because this deals with housing projects that they throw it back to the cities. Well, you don't need state funding because now it's only 50%, 51% of the vote, to fund your project. So you don't get any money from us, right? I mean, it's the same kind of thing they were doing with SB 10, where they were saying, oh, cities can have the option now to lower to change their zoning and so forth. So I'm just saying, be careful what you look at because there's the other side of the coin and they use that against us. I don't know. I mean, people feel differently about bonds. Our citizens are the ones that have to pay for it. So I think this is an issue that really they need to decide because it's their pocketbooks, whether they want to lower the threshold or they want to keep it at what it is. And just because the schools went that way doesn't necessarily mean that we want to lower the bar and because it's going to take over everything. If you do this, you do it for everything. But so that's I think we should stay out of most, if not all of the propositions other than maybe Prop 36 because we're all subjected to crime. And this is a very moderate measure or change in Prop 47 that we're all experiencing the effects of. So something that's clear, more clear and will definitely.
So these are just suggestions. Nothing says we actually have to take action on this.
I know, right.
So if it's up to this board that says we're good with how our voters are going to vote, we could just move on.
Yeah, my bias is to leave it to the cities if they want to write support for certain measures because they know better what their constituents and their council members would be supportive of.
Is that a motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we take no action. We leave it up to the individual cities to decide if they want to issue letters of support.
Second.
There's a first and a second.
Roll call.
Roll call, David?
Actually, we don't have to do roll call anymore because Bernadette's no longer.
She
left.
She's gone. Okay. All right.
Let me just have a motion and you in a second.
I was.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Yep.
Full transparency.
SD2.
Throughout the years, we've done it differently and at this. This is your decision, so that's fine. Okay, so move on.
Office space.
Okay, what's happened is you can see that we're all sitting here in a tight room because all of the electronic societies, which we're totally thrilled about. So we also are getting a lot of grants and we hired several employees and we have our Civic Spark Fellows and it's getting crowded even though we hotel. So we are maximizing, we think, our office space. So we asked our landlord, our lease is up. And as you know, we've looked around and so we're trying to figure out how to renegotiate the lease. We've looked around to see if we could find in this complex more space. And what we found in the adjacent building over there is a room that could be renovated into a bigger boardroom.
Like the old?
Not quite as big
It
as
won't
that,
be as,
but
yeah.
but larger than this.
Larger than this. This is, I think, 1,000 square feet, and that's 1,400 square feet.
That's correct.
Yes.
Right, David?
It's about this plus half.
Yes, so it's and so we have to renovate it and whatever. We've checked our budget, and if the big grants coming in, we think we can afford it. We would then turn a lot of this into office space. So this would be the office, the board's would be over there. We'd still try to rent it, and
Boardroom.
and the boardroom. What we're coming to you tonight for is just to ask you if we can begin negotiations. Beginning negotiations does nothing more than hold the space so that we can look at it, have them look at a designer who will design the space and let us know. It is not obligating you to do it.
Need a motion?
So we need a motion to authorize me to begin those negotiations.
Motion to start negotiation.
Second. Okay, discussion.
Sorry, who's the second?
Go ahead.
Discussion. I just think, this is something where it basically what we're hearing is that they anticipate we could have enough money for this. This is an additional 4,000 plus a month of fixed costs that we can't get rid of unless we break a lease. And that's, and so if the money doesn't come in and we don't get the grants, we're going to be in a situation where all the cities have to pay for it. I know my city's maxed out. I mean, I don't even know if they'll re-up again. So it's a council decision. But I just want to say that I think we need to see some numbers, because if you go out to negotiate, and that sets an expectation, and we really ought to have the finances as to where this money is coming from and why we can't have with all of these, we bring all our computers, why during the week when we're not here, we're only here once a month, people can't hook up and be on computers here in this room, because then you're also talking about renovation costs, renovating this room and renovating the other building. And that's not been priced out here. You're just talking, giving us the $4,100 a month, which is significant enough. So I would make a motion, a substitute motion, that we get further information about what exactly financially we are going to get, not we expect to get to be able to fund this, what the actual cost of renovation for both rooms would be, and just so we can have something financial to review before we make that decision.
That's
what we need. Okay, so then let me just say that we would then lose the space. All we're doing tonight, we've looked at our budget. We have enough money now to be able to enter into this, but we're not asking you that. We're asking you to let us negotiate, find out what renovation costs would be, how we would do it, what would need to be done here, what would need to be done there. We're definitely not ready to do this, but we will lose the space if we don't say that we're interested in this space. And so I need that tonight, otherwise we lose the space.
There's an original motion and this is a substitute motion?
Yes. To allow them to negotiate and bring back the information so we know what it's going to cost to do.
Right. You don't know that today. We can't bring that to you because we haven't.
What we was asking for, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we make a substitute?
Yeah, yes.
to enter into that negotiation and specifically ask for tenant improvements. So now it's different. So credits towards tenant.
Okay. And it's no commitment. The motion includes no commitment.
Right. I have a question. I'd go back to 2011, of course, when we were negotiating on the Western Avenue space, let alone this one. And I guess I'm a little bit confused. Did the steering committee have a real estate committee? And have you looked at other spaces? Because particularly if that other building has an HVAC system like this one, I'm just curious about what other spaces have been looked at, even at this preliminary point, because one would argue now is a weak time in the commercial market and we might have more opportunities. And particularly as was suggested, you explore a TI opportunity that would imply a certain term commitment, which maybe we don't want to commit to if there are other spaces available.
Yeah, that's all part of the notion. I can't remember. We looked at about 4 or 5. We had a real estate broker. We looked at 4 or 5 different spaces. Unfortunately, Torrance was great in helping us with suggestions that we looked at. We could not find anything.
But I think also though, we have been working with the current broker.
Yeah.
And he does give us market reports and we're not seeing that there's better deals out there.
The perception of a decline in the commercial is really in like the downtown area of like downtown LA.
Yeah.
What's happened is offices that used to be in downtown, the people that don't want to drive all the way downtown anymore, found offices in South Bay. And so our market is relatively strong compared to a downtown LA kind of market.
Right.
So it's not quite a tenant's market like it might be in downtown LA.
Right.
And when we looked at alternative locations, we ended up with this one because this was the most affordable of the ones that we were provided, or those were significantly larger than we would ever need, and then an overall huge budget increase for rent versus.
It was very disappointing, actually.
I would just add one other thing is that moving costs a lot of money. So even if you having a lower rent doesn't necessarily offset the cost of moving. I think we had a budget of $100,000 for our last move. Some of that was tenant improvements, but most of that was like the moving costs, setting up new things, setting up, you know, audio visual, all of that. That costs a lot of money.
So let's see, we have 3 motions on the floor. I didn't hear a second on yours. Was there a second on the last motion?
I heard it. I heard.
I didn't hear a second on the second motion.
No.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Was there a second on the substitute?
Okay, so Councilmember Obaji's dies for lack of seconds. Okay.
And then we have.
So the one right now is to not authorize negotiation, but bring back more information.
Which we will not be able to do.
I'm gonna go back and second his.
Second that.
Yeah, do the negotiations and come back with including the tenant improvement information. I think
that was different from space.
Yeah, it's just an element of what they're bringing back. Right?
Just have a talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, he wanted naming credit.
The motion we'll be taking a vote on.
Yes.
To authorize the negotiation and ask for tenant improvements.
And come back with a report.
Right. Yeah. Any opposition to that one? Any abstentions on that one?
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Now, I thought in the Robert's Rules of Order, there's a first and a second, but that had to be voted on unless they accept a friendly substitution. Otherwise, you'll keep doing that. So just help me with this. Why don't we do that when someone makes a first and a second? Why don't we call for a vote unless there's an acceptance of a friendly substitution?
There was a substitution. Oh,
so a friendly substitution.
There was a substitution to the substitution.
It was friendly substitution.
Yeah.
It was a friendly amendment.
Exactly.
It was a friendly amendment to the original motion.
Substitute and a substitute.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people.
That's a friendly amendment. So there's only actual two items on the table. One was the original motion that I made, but then Zane did a
Friendly amendment.
An amendment to that one, and then you have the second one that B has.
Oh,
not in that order.
The wrong order.
It was a substitute motion followed by a substitute to a substitute.
Right.
So then that would come up for vote first and a second.
But the first motion had a first and a second. So the question is, was the substitute a friendly substitute motion?
It doesn't have to be friendly for a substitute.
Right.
So then you're set.
It didn't.
It's done.
They stack on top of each other and then you take them in reverse order.
Stack them on top.
If you do that, then how do you get heard if you made a motion in a second? How does that ever get heard?
So there's a maximum of.
Voting down
So you gotta game it out from the get-go when you make your motion.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. Sophisticated.
Apparently.
Hey, who's on first?
Okay. All right. So
go back. So hearing no opposition or abstentions to the third motion to authorize negotiation, ask for tenant improvements and report back. No oppositions.
I have a question. I just want to better understand. So you go in with this authorization under this third motion. It will come back to the steering committee or it comes back to the board?
Both.
But at that time, do we really have the capacity to basically undermine your negotiating authority by saying, no, we actually want a different change to that?
You know, maybe the word negotiation is what's messing us up. What we're doing is we're finding out what it will cost us to get that done.
Getting pricing info.
Yeah, we're getting pricing info. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was.
That's much clearer.
Yeah.
Right, that motion passes and there was no abstentions, right?
So, yeah, but, okay, so, okay. Okay.
No more questions.
Never.
Go ahead, Flo.
Okay, next is the South Bay Environmental Services Center. I have to say, we took a really great tour yesterday at the gas company. We saw a hydrogen house and a hydrogen microgrid station. We saw what they do for their commercial kitchens. And we had people from the Inglewood staff, the El Segundo staff, and Torrance staff. And it was really, really interesting. Hawthorne was there too, right? The Hawthorne staff. Very interesting. And we might even want to do a tour at some point if you haven't seen those kinds of things. But anyway, it was arranged by our staff and really well done.
Yeah, thank you. And we also had our partners there, which was really exciting. And one of our staff made a presentation on our facility equipment inventory. It was a joint meeting with Western Riverside Council of Governments, same kind of staff there, city staff there. And they were asking a ton of questions about our facility equipment inventory. So that was kind of exciting that other areas are going to start using our project as a.
Uh-oh, that means we had to go.
Amber alert. Silver alert.
Very efficient.
A motion on the floor.
That was just to announce the very exciting information I'm going to give you right now, which is we had Centinela Valley Unified School District sign up for the SoCal RIN today.
Nice.
Martha and I were at an event. I think Martha's here. Martha and I were at an event and we ran into the superintendent that's responsible for buildings. And we talked to him about a project that he's doing or looking at with a third-party provider. And I let him know that we could have somebody vet his third-party application so that he could have some good information to take back. And so they were very excited about that and they signed up. So we're almost down to all of the school districts actually signing up for this program. He's also very interested in the cool roof study that we're going to do and wants to do a cool roof for one of the buildings there. It was a fantastic event that they had. They had these little mini academies where their high school students actually do services, like they do catering services and they do woodworking and they have an environmental group. And so we're going to tap into them to maybe be potential volunteers working with Martha, but also maybe they could cater one of our smaller meetings, like our steering committee, for example. So there's a lot of coordination that we can do with them. So that was kind of exciting also. I don't think that's.
Yeah, I have something else. I don't know if it's public or not, but Torrance won the Beacon Award. And we also got.
I'm surprised.
I think we found out.
We got a notice from your staff thanking us because apparently we did the application.
I wrote that.
That's why.
Right. Thank you.
Find out at your council meeting, you can please mention that we also did the application. So congratulations.
But your team did a great job at doing the work to get it done. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's not here today, but we have a new Civic Spark Fellow that started yesterday.
Nice.
And his name is Kevin Trong, and he is going to be working on energy efficiency.
Right. And the last thing, we have another fellow that is starting on Monday, and that's Zoran, and he's going to be working with the outreach team and also doing communications with Pauline. So.
Yeah.
Next is Ronson.
Yeah, so just some quick updates.
You want to
speak up, Ronson? You're fighting the air conditioning.
Quick updates on the pledge. The executive committee that Miguel mentioned just now is actually going to meet tomorrow, and they're going to take up our pledge. What they've done is they've adopted it as their own. So this is now the LA County pledge.
Oh.
And the highlighted part is just me. There's some language they changed from our pledge. Just a lot of wordsmithing. We think, we're not 100% sure, but it seems like the executive committees might push this to the Board of Supervisors and as a motion, and if they approve it, then they might instruct the CEO's office to encourage their cities to sign up to the pledge. That's our presumption. And so some other cities outside of our region that are looking at the pledge as well is the gateway cities, including Long Beach and Santa Monica. Just some quick dates coming up. October 28th, there's going to be in Redondo Beach, at the Redondo Beach Library, a Climate Resiliency Center discussion roundtable hosted by Supervisor Barger and Councilmember Rahman from LA City.
And they will be there.
Yeah, they will be there. We're going to send out invitations to y'all as well as the agenda. We're going to invite people from your city, city managers, Parks and Rec, other folks that may be interested in this topic. What they're looking to do is they're really trying to push, and this was approved by the Board of Supervisors this week, to create 8 regional climate centers because we're continuing to see weather-related emergencies, the heat waves this year, the hurricane last year. And so this is something that they're really trying to push. So we hope you can all join us. That will be Monday, October 28th. I believe it's at 10 a.m. We'll send out an invitation. And then we're also really excited, October 30th, Wednesday morning, starting at 9, Supervisor Mitchell and Assemblymember Al Marsucci will be hosting a celebration of Redondo Beach achievement of functional zero street homelessness. There's an optional tour of their pallet shelter at 11:15. We hope in a couple of weeks to release a press release on this. So be on the lookout for that. And this invitation will probably be hitting your inboxes sometime next week. That's it.
Thank you.
Senior Services, Attorney Britt, did you want to say anything? Sure.
Now that I have the microphone.
Yeah.
Our Senior Services Working Group met this past Tuesday. We meet every other month. And we had some interesting discussions. We had a presentation from the director of the Metro Senior Programs that really is very extensive in terms of the kinds of assistance that are provided for seniors in an effort to help them to be able to use public transportation. And then we reviewed a lot of the legislation that's going to be on the ballot. So and had a discussion. Bronson oversaw that and did the report. If you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, we just reviewed different legislation related to senior services. Yeah, nothing really to report. We didn't take a position or anything like that, but we just reviewed the several propositions that they have that the senior population.
And I'll mention thank you to Mayor Uphuff for attending faithfully, and you all are invited. I think you get the notice. You probably get a lot of notices of other things to do on campus. You're certainly all welcome to bring it open.
Thanks.
Okay, before we turn this over to the Metro people, we do have another comment letter, and let me explain this comment letter. It's on the I-405. It doesn't have anything to do with widening the freeway. The I-405 is looking at, Metro's talking about I-105, excuse me, I'm sorry. The 105 is they're looking at building express lanes on the I-105. And the Transportation Committee had a presentation. Okay, I'm gonna let you do this.
Okay, so Metro's leading the I-105 Express Lanes project. It's broken up into segments. The first segment is from the 405 to just into like Compton area. So it's all the South Bay corridor. And part of that process, similar to the 110 and the 10 express lanes, is the development of a list of potential projects that would be funded through the net toll revenues that are collected along the corridor. The funds have to be spent in that corridor on a specific set of types of projects, active transportation, transit, and roadway. And so we felt that it was kind of important to comment on this after the presentation at the IWG, because it was not very clear if, one, they really worked with cities to develop this project list, or just pulled from reports that are publicly available, and plans and studies that you guys might have already on the books. And two, it was not very clear that this is supposed to be a living document. Express lanes won't be built until 2028, I believe. And the first round of grant cycle would not be until 2030. So a lot of the projects that might be on that list today may either be already completed, not in favor anymore. And so we thought it was very important to write to the Metro Board and make it clear to both cities, the public, and all the stakeholders that the list of projects is not the only list of projects, and that there should be potential additions or subtractions to it when the first call for projects actually happens. The other major comment in the letter is based on some personal experience that Jackie had on the 110 Express Lanes call for projects process. She was an evaluator. They did not get all of the information up front. Important decision points like if a city has, or lead agency has been prompt in delivering prior projects. And so just an improvement to the project selection process overall for the new 105 process when that happens. And so the equity assessment, which is essentially this project, will be going to the Metro Board in October. And we want to submit this letter to the Metro Board in advance of their meeting in October.
Good. So
I have a rhetorical question.
Go ahead.
Is this sort of comment helpful? I wonder if there might be some input from a board member or anybody else who can indicate whether this sort of general comment is helpful or whether something more specific would be helpful. No need to comment on this rhetorical question, but
I think one of the comments is that the Metro presentation was very specific, and it should have been more general for something that's going to happen in 2030. I mean, specific project lists are not helpful today and shouldn't be considered the projects for 2030. Anyway, just a thought.
it sounds generic is why
I understand.
being a little snarky, but I'm wondering, how can we really be constructive? Is this the best way?
I think that just saying, I mean, I don't know what the Metro Board will do with it. I think the staff maybe will hear that this is important. They presented, you know, we asked them to change their presentation, but I think we're codifying it to say your project list cannot be the project list. And their review process, I will not go into it, but it was really bad. And both me and San Gabriel Valley executive director were just really upset. They've got to improve the process, and we wanted to elevate that to the board without being, you know, specific.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Entertain a motion to approve this letter?
Make a motion to approve the letter.
Have a motion, a second?
Second.
There's a second. David?
Any opposition? Any abstentions?
I'll need to. She's on the board.
I know.
So.
Little thing, right? Yeah, when the letters are drafted.
I turn it over to Mayor Butts. I just want to mention that we also saw a presentation at it was a transportation committee about the LAX Metro Transit station, and Metro is willing. It's the largest station, I guess, in the whole system or something, and it's going to be opening up in the next couple of months. And we can have a tour on October 21st. It's a construction site. They'll only take 20 people at a time. This is the flyer, which we just did today, so you haven't seen it before. I'll be sending it out. And thanks to Andy Seawick for putting this together. And so we wanted to make sure, if you're interested, sign up because space is limited. So Mayor Butts, you can tell us about the meeting today.
The main thing the meeting today was discussion of the homicide that occurred yesterday on a bus. The encouraging thing is that the bus had one of the bulletproof barriers. for the driver tonight. The bad news is that we have not implemented the weapons detection system as yet that I talked about last time.
Yep.
That pilot will be underway within the next 60 days. And so an individual, and we don't know his motivation, got on the bus, shot one patron multiple times, killing him on the bus, and shot another patron. Now, there was a press conference held, and Chairwoman Hahn, Mayor Bass, and the CEO held the press conference. Now, I have to tell you that I spent 37 years in law enforcement, and I've had the unfortunate task to do those types of conferences. They did an excellent job. They didn't just show sadness for the victim and the family. They were strong and gave hope for what the future will hold. And this is like a really pet thing for me, because I've talked for years about the necessity to spend whatever it takes to keep weapons off the system. And there's total unanimity on this issue. And so when we get to the point that you'll be detected if you come on with a firearm, or you try to get on with a firearm or a knife, then we'll have a situation where the people that engage in those behaviors will know that they cannot, and they will not attempt to use it. The second thing that's very important is that we've come to unanimous agreement that there's this overwhelming correlation with people that get on the system without fares and those that commit behavioral problems or crime. And so that's the direction that we're going. The surge that was engaged upon by the 3 agencies has been effective. There have been more arrests, more citations, and more evictions from the system for people that don't pay fares. But that being said, the threshold is we're not going to have a system if people can enter it with firearms and knives. And that's where we are right now. And again, I want to compliment Chairwoman Hahn, Mayor Bass, and CEO Wiggins. I have great praise for the LAPD SWAT team. I spent 14 years in SWAT. I watched that operation, start to finish. Extremely professional, extremely measured, and they took the suspect into custody.
So he was caught.
He was caught. He was definitely caught, and he wasn't shot to death. So anyway, that's my report.
Thank you.
I have just one addition to the Metro item. The Metro Board approved our Measure M annual program update earlier today also. City of Redondo Beach, Inglewood, LA County, Hawthorne got some additional funding for some of the Measure M projects. They also approved the funds for the City of Alameda and Carson's local travel network project. So your staff should be getting contacted by Metro staff in the next couple of weeks for funding agreements or amendments to your existing funding agreements for all of those items.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just briefly.
Yes.
Mayor Butts, thanks for focusing on keeping weapons off the system. You've been leading on that, it seems to me, and the use of technology for that. I view that as critical. I can't imagine how frustrating it is to be on the board. You know, you can't ever stop everybody. And when things like this happen, you know, it feels like it's taken 2 or 3 steps back in the efforts to get people to believe that they can use the system safely. But my message to constituents will continue to be the system is safe. Right?
You know, it's interesting.
Crime happens everywhere. The Metro system is no different, but your efforts to use technology to keep weapons off, which we discussed at the last meeting, and that was challenged by one of the directors. From my perspective, I absolutely support your efforts in that regard.
And you are so on point, because the reality is we have multi-millions of people that use the system in a month. And so the crime rate per 100,000 is de minimis. However, every major assault that occurs on the system is always amplified, not just locally, but nationally. And that's somewhat frustrating. But that being said, what I said today is we need to make the system the same as if you're getting on a plane. Okay, you have no question if you get on a plane, no one's going to have a weapon. That's what we have to do. And if it costs us more to do that, then that's a cost of making mass transportation desirable and safe. So I agree with you 100%.
Again, thank you very much.
General Assembly, the steering committee is, this is on page 115 of your agenda. The theme this year, this is our 30th anniversary as a COG. So we're talking about SBCCOG at 30, a legacy of success, a vision for tomorrow. It's the name, and we're going to be working on program. Most important thing for you to agree to, I guess, is that the steering committee voted that this year we would charge $20 for lunch. So the event is free, but if you want to have lunch, it would be $20. What's happening is we've gotten like, one year I think we got 500 RSVPs and 400 people or 350 people came. So ordering lunch has become like a crapshoot. And so we figured if maybe people had a investment in this, they would be more realistic. So we could still, we cannot charge for the event. We don't even want to, but the Brown Act would probably not allow us to do that. So the event is free, and when you register, you can just buy your lunch at that time. So that's probably the big difference of this from any other. And then also we're talking about, for those of you that went to the one that had the youth panel, we're talking about another youth panel where we can have our own staff, some of the Civic Spark people and very incredibly intelligent people we have working for us now, talk about the future that they're looking for at the end of the day. So, we don't need a motion, but if somebody wants to talk about the charge, no.
Anybody? It just makes sense because it costs us a lot of money in the end if we're purchasing meals that people aren't eating. So again, it is kind of a crapshoot that we try to figure that out every year. And I agree that if you have to pay $20 for, and it's well over 20, but if you have to pay 20, you're going to come. So.
And people don't have the option to come and say, well, I'm not going to eat lunch, but then get in line, right? Okay, just asking.
I don't know if we had lunch, we would have, it's not line. We're not doing buffet anymore, right?
Right.
We haven't figured it out.
We have to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Or otherwise,
that's really important.
So we'll figure that one out.
It's a bit more work for us, but it's okay.
Hey, just to confirm, has grant funded typically paid for the costs?
Sponsorships,
I mean, yeah.
Sponsorships, they've paid for the hard costs, probably not the soft costs. We put a lot of staff time into this.
But has that included lunch in the past? I'm just curious.
Yes. So the lunch is really, we could probably do this without the payment, but it's becoming crazy about the number of RSVPs we get, and then the people don't show up.
It's like, what is it, like 50? The difference is around 50 people?
No, it's more than that.
At least, I would say.
Yeah. A minimum of 50 people, and that's a lot.
Because they come and they don't tell us, and they come and it's
yeah. I would offer up. It's not really about the money. It's behavior.
Yeah.
It's responsible.
Don't make a reservation. You'll be there and just don't show, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's cost prohibitive for some people who'd want to come, but maybe make it $15 instead of 20. That's the only I was thinking. That because especially if we're getting some funding to mitigate the cost, at least people who have an interest but maybe are financially strapped, they could still be there.
I defer to the steering committee myself to come up with the number, but I just worry, might you affect attendance? That's the only thing I would ask, because I think you wanted people in the past.
The lunch is free. The attendance is
the event is free.
I understand.
Yeah.
It starts at what time?
We said, we're planning to start at 9 o'clock like it usually does.
That's the fair starts, or the actual speaker started at 9?
Probably, we haven't done the program yet. Probably the speakers started on 10.
Okay, so if you are there at 10:30 for a speaker, then they're gonna be hungry at noon approximately. And then they're gonna have to contemplate whether to leave or not. I kind of agree here with that maybe we reduce it down to 15 just to make it more accessible, and still people have an investment or skin in the game, right?
The steering committee did discuss 15 and 20 and they decided maybe a bill would be easier. If people want to pay cash, there's a $20 bill and we won't have change.
We're not taking cash.
Jackie?
Well, but if people walk in, we haven't discussed, but
Jackie?
We're gonna take.
If you say we can go in 5 minutes, I'd give you $50 right now. Now, right?
no, we have some really, I want to show you a video, a 1 minute video you have to see. So you can't leave yet.
Hey, you don't want to go.
Okay. Lunch for everyone. So.
We'll figure it out at the steering committee, at the steering committee.
I'll second that.
We'll discuss it.
Okay, so then let me go on, the local travel network, do we have it queued up? The city of El Segundo did an explainer video for us, that's that you can use on your cable, I think. And we wanted to show you the local travel network explainer video. This was done by El Segundo for no cost to us. Make it bigger.
Do you know about the local travel network? Just look for the turtle. The LTN is a network of existing low-speed streets that support the use of lightweight, zero-emission, low-speed vehicles. These modes, known as micromobility, include neighborhood electric vehicles known as NEVs, e-bikes, pedal bikes, e-scooters, and other devices that go 25 miles per hour or less. When using the local travel network, these devices share the road with other cars, so everybody goes slow. Just look for the turtle signs and Shero signs on the road. Why does the South Bay need the local travel network? Because studies show that 70% of trips taken here are just 3 miles or less. The South Bay City's Council of Governments studied transportation patterns and determined that right-sizing your ride just makes sense. When you think about it, why drive your 4,000-pound car 3 miles when you can hop on your low-speed device and save money on gas and car maintenance while helping the environment? So consider a low-speed vehicle as your mode of travel to get around town. Besides, driving around in the open air is so much more fun and makes it easy to say hi to your neighbors. Take it to the beach, drop your kids off at school or the park, and if you need to get across a busy intersection, follow the turtle signs that guide you where to cross safely. So again, just look for the turtle. Plans are being developed to connect the whole South Bay with the LTN. Learn more about it at southbaycities.org. See you on the LTN.
Nice.
So that was done, and this would not have gotten done without Colleen, our communications person. She worked with El Segundo, they worked on the script. And it's something like, we've never had anything like this that you can take and use if you'd like. And if you do, please let us know, but it's thank you to Colleen and the city of El Segundo. Yeah. I wanted you to see that. I also wanted, we don't have it here, do we, we have Halloween bike safety tips that we've done. You're supposed to have, okay. So the Halloween bike safety tips we'll send out to you and hopefully you'll want to use them in your community. They're sort of, decorate your costume and your helmet and all kinds of things. So they're sort of fun.
Don't put a face mask on.
Right.
While you're driving your, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue going fast.
Good.
Kim and I forgot to mention that we are having our volunteer reception again for our volunteers on November 21st, which is before the regular board meeting, which is also November 21st. We're recognizing several volunteers that are over 50 hours or more. If you have one in your city, we've contacted you to please recognize them yourself. The digital equity plan is almost done. It's going to be filed with the CPUC. That grant will be over on Monday, but we're going to be working on expanding really seriously, changing our South Bay fiber network to be much more vibrant, expansive, and really provide you with better services. I'm not telling you a lot about it because we really want to focus in on a meeting where we really talk about the future of the South Bay fiber network. There's a lot of activity going on behind the scenes. I'm going to bring that back to you.
Here you go, Jackie.
Here's our Halloween tips. I don't know if you can read them, but they're, don't be bright, don't fright, don't wear scary. I don't. They're really cute. So I will send those out to you. I don't think we have any reports, huh? The other thing is, if you have a city newsletter, this is something I really wanted to mention. I know that some of the Inglewood council members do, the Redondo council members do, have their own personal newsletters. And if you have a city newsletter, we'd love to send things like the Halloween safety tips to you. And I think you might want to use them in your own newsletters. So please let us know so that we can do that. So my final wrap up.
Email me.
Yeah.
For the newsletter, for the email addresses are. Yeah.
So my final thing is, don't forget the October 21st tour. October 24th, when you come to the board meeting, and next month, we are going to, I should mention, sort of preview coming attractions. Inglewood Transit Connector, its issue is going to be on the Transportation Committee agenda on October 14th, and then coming back to the board on October 24th. So it would be helpful if you had people at the Transportation Committee. They're going to discuss it in depth. And then we're going to be discussing it at the 24th. But you won't find us here. So please be careful not to come here. We're going to be at Cal State Dominguez Hills for their Economic Forecast Conference. That conference starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think you have to register for it. I'm trying to figure out, they've always given us a discounted price, and they haven't told us. So I don't know if you're getting a discount or not from them. But if I find that out, I'll let you know. October 28th and 30th is the homeless services. One's the Resilience Center, the other is the Redondo Beach celebration, and then November 21st is our volunteer reception. So keep your something Wildcat close by because we have a lot going on.
So the board meeting,
the board meeting will be at Dominguez Hills. I haven't quite figured this out. Their event is 3 to 5:30. They have a reception from 5:30 to 6:30. And I guess I should ask you, do you want to start our board meeting at 6:30, or do you want to just plan to leave the reception at 6 and start our board meeting at 6? Do you have any preference for that?
Start at 6.
Start at 6. Okay, so Dominguez, and we're trying, and I'm told that we have to have free parking. So we'll be sending you out things on how to get free parking and that kind of stuff, okay? So, okay, that's it, Ronnie, that's.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jackie, just update that for that event, early bird rate, I guess, ends in 2 days. So I got
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, for the economic.
We haven't found out yet, Natalie, right? No, we keep asking them.
Andrea called it.
Yeah, okay, so we're calling, hopefully we can send you something tomorrow to find out if we can get something. We usually get a discount. I don't understand what's going on.
Okay. Okay, anything for the good of the order? Hearing none? For adjournment. Thank you, everybody.
Excellent.
They got a panel.
Back to landslide stuff.
And I hope when the rain